Vincent van Gogh's story. Have you ever wondered how a man who sold only one painting in his lifetime became one of the most famous artists in history? Today, we dive deep into the extraordinary life of Vincent van Gogh, a story filled with passion, struggle, mystery, and genius. From his unusual childhood to the shadow of a brother who shared his name. This is not just the story of an artist, but of a soul searching for meaning in a world that didn't understand him. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and hit the like button. It really helps us keep bringing you powerful stories like this one. Let's step back in time, to a small village in the Netherlands, where it all began. When we talk about Vincent van Gogh, we're not just talking about a painter. We're talking about a life that began with a mystery, almost as if his story had already been written before he was even born. But to understand that, we need to start with his family. Vincent's father, Theodorus van Gogh, was a deeply religious man. He worked as a pastor in the Dutch Reformed Church, a respected position in their small community. He believed in discipline, morality, and a life devoted to faith. His personality was calm, serious, and sometimes emotionally distant. His mother, Anna Cornelia Carbentus, was very different. She had a strong appreciation for art and nature. She loved drawing flowers and landscapes, and she encouraged creativity in her children. Many believe that Vincent's sensitivity to beauty, the colors of nature, the changing seasons, came from her. At first glance, it seems like a balanced home, faith from the father, creativity from the mother. But there was something unusual, something haunting. Exactly 1 year before Vincent was born, his mother gave birth to another baby boy, a child who was also named Vincent van Gogh. He was stillborn. Imagine this for a moment. A grieving family, holding on to loss. And then, 1 year later on the exact same date, March 30th, another child is born. And they give him the same name. From the very beginning, Vincent van Gogh was living in the shadow of someone who never lived. As a child, Vincent would walk past the local church cemetery, and there it was, a gravestone, with his name on it. Same name, same birth date, but a different fate. This wasn't just a coincidence, it shaped him deeply. Some historians believe this created a quiet psychological weight, a feeling that he was a replacement, or that he had to live a life meant for someone else. Whether that's true or not, one thing is certain. Vincent's life started with loss. Transition to childhood. So what kind of child grows up with a story like that? Was he happy? Quiet? Troubled? In the next part, we'll explore Vincent's early childhood, his personality, his isolation, and the first signs that he was different. Growing up, Vincent van Gogh was not like the other children. He wasn't loud. He wasn't playful. And he definitely wasn't easy to understand. From a young age, Vincent was known as a serious and quiet child. He spent long hours alone, often wandering through fields, observing nature in silence. While other kids were playing, Vincent was watching, thinking, feeling. Some people described him as gentle and sensitive. Others saw him as strange and distant. And that contrast followed him his entire life. Life at home. At home, the environment was structured and disciplined, largely influenced by his father, Theodorus van Gogh. There were clear expectations: respect, obedience, and a strong connection to religion. But Vincent didn't always fit into that mold. He struggled to express himself emotionally, especially with his father. Their relationship was respectful, but not warm. There was often a quiet distance between them, like two people who didn't fully understand each other. On the other hand, his mother, Anna Cornelia Carbentus, played a different role. She introduced him to drawing at a young age. Nothing serious at first, just simple sketches of nature. Flowers, trees, landscapes. But something clicked. Vincent didn't just draw what he saw. He drew what he felt. Even as a child, his connection to nature was emotional, almost spiritual. His bond with Theo. Among all his siblings, there was one person who would change his life forever. His younger brother, Theo van Gogh. Theo wasn't just a brother. He was Vincent's closest friend, his emotional support, and later, the only person who truly believed in him. Even in childhood, their bond was special. Where Vincent was intense and withdrawn, Theo was more balanced and understanding. He had a calm presence, something Vincent desperately needed. And as we'll see later in the story, Theo would become the one person who stood by Vincent when the entire world turned away. School years, a sense of not belonging. Vincent's time at school wasn't easy. He attended several schools but never stayed long in one place. His family moved, and his education was inconsistent. But the bigger issue wasn't just movement. It was disconnection. Vincent struggled to fit in socially. He didn't form many close friendships, and he often felt like an outsider. Teachers didn't quite know what to make of him. He wasn't a bad student, but he wasn't particularly engaged either. It was as if his mind was somewhere else, focused on something deeper, something undefined. Eventually, at the age of 15, Vincent left school completely. No degree, no clear direction. Just a quiet, thoughtful boy, trying to find his place in the world. Early signs of who he would become. Looking back, these early years reveal something important. Vincent wasn't just different. He was deeply internal. He felt things more intensely than others. He saw beauty where others didn't. And he carried a sense of loneliness that never fully left him. But at this stage of his life, he wasn't an artist yet. Not really. He hadn't picked up a paintbrush seriously. He hadn't created masterpieces. He was just searching. So what happens to a young man like this? A boy who feels too much, but doesn't know where to put those feelings? In the next part, Vincent enters adulthood trying different jobs, struggling to find purpose, and slowly moving toward the path that would change art history forever. Early adulthood, searching for purpose. As Vincent van Gogh stepped into adulthood, one thing became very clear. He didn't know where he belonged. Unlike others his age, Vincent didn't have a clear path. No stable ambition. No defined future. Just a restless mind, and a constant feeling that something was missing. His first jobs. Failure after failure. Vincent's family helped him get his first job through connections. He started working at an art dealership called Goupil & C., a well-known company at the time. At first, things seemed promising. He worked in different cities like The Hague, London, and Paris. He was exposed to art, paintings, and the professional world. But there was a problem. Vincent wasn't driven by money, or business, or selling art. He cared about meaning, and that made him bad at his job. Over time, he became more withdrawn, more emotional, and less interested in the commercial side of art. Eventually, he was fired. This would be the first of many failures. During his time in London, Vincent experienced something new. Love. He fell deeply in love with a woman named Ursula Lawyer. She was the daughter of the landlady where he was staying. For Vincent, this wasn't just attraction, it was intense, emotional, overwhelming. He imagined a future with her. He believed this was the beginning of something real. So one day, he confessed his feelings. And she rejected him. Not just gently, but completely. She was already engaged to someone else. This moment hit Vincent hard. Very hard. It wasn't just heartbreak, it was a deep emotional collapse. After that, he changed. He became more isolated, more serious, more distant from people. It was as if he closed a part of himself off from the world. And this wouldn't be the last time. Vincent would fall in love several times in his life. But almost always, it would end in rejection, confusion, or pain. Love, for him, was never simple. After losing his job and experiencing heartbreak, Vincent began searching for meaning somewhere else. If he couldn't find purpose in work, and couldn't find connection in love, maybe he could find it in faith. Inspired by his father, Theodorus van Gogh, Vincent decided to pursue a religious path. He wanted to become a preacher, not for status, but because he genuinely wanted to help people. He studied theology, tried to enter religious schools, but once again, things didn't go smoothly. He struggled academically. He didn't follow traditional rules. And eventually, he failed to secure a formal position. But Vincent didn't give up. Instead, he went to a poor mining region in Belgium called the Borinage. There, he lived among miners, people suffering from extreme poverty. And this is where we see something powerful. Vincent didn't just preach. He lived like them. He gave away his clothes, slept on the floor, shared their pain. He wanted to become one of them. But the church didn't see this as devotion. They saw it as extreme. And eventually, he was dismissed. Again. At this point in his life, Vincent had lost his job, lost love, failed in religion. He was lost, completely. But sometimes, when everything falls apart, something new begins. Because right here at his lowest point, Vincent van Gogh makes a decision that will change everything. He decides to become an artist. But how does a man with no formal training, no success, and no direction become one of the greatest artists in history? The birth of an artist. At the age of 27, when most artists already know their path, Vincent van Gogh made a decision that shocked everyone around him. He would become an artist. No formal training. No clear plan. No guarantee of success. Just a burning feeling inside him that this was what he was meant to do. A late beginning. Vincent didn't start with colors. He started with pencil and charcoal. His early drawings were dark, rough, and emotional, focused on workers, poor people, and everyday life. He wasn't interested in beauty the way others were. He was interested in truth. You could already see it. His art wasn't about perfection. It was about feeling. Theo, the lifeline. At this stage, one person became absolutely essential. His brother, Theo van Gogh. Theo believed in Vincent, even when no one else did. He supported him financially, encouraged him emotionally, and most importantly, he never gave up on him. Without Theo, Vincent's story might have ended before it even began. Their letters, hundreds of them, would later reveal just how deep their bond was. Vincent wasn't just painting. He was surviving because of Theo. Poverty and obsession. Vincent lived in extreme poverty. He often couldn't afford food. Sometimes he chose to buy paint instead of eating. Think about that. While others were building stable lives, Vincent was sacrificing everything for something uncertain. But he wasn't painting casually. He was obsessed. He studied anatomy, perspective, and technique. He practiced constantly. He pushed himself harder than anyone around him. It was as if he was trying to catch up, to prove something, to justify his existence. The first major work. In 1885, Vincent created his first major painting, The Potato Eaters. This wasn't a beautiful painting in the traditional sense. It was dark, heavy, almost uncomfortable to look at. It showed a group of poor farmers sitting around a table, eating potatoes under dim light. But for Vincent, this was important. He wanted to show real life, the hardship, the struggle, the raw humanity. Critics didn't like it. They thought it was crude, unrefined, even ugly. But Vincent didn't care. Because for him, it was honest. Paris, a new world. Everything changed when Vincent moved to Paris in 1886 to live with Theo. Paris wasn't just a city. It was the center of the art world. And for the first time, Vincent was exposed to new styles, new ideas, and new artists, including movements like Impressionism. Here, his art transformed. His colors became brighter. His brushstrokes more expressive. His perspective more experimental. He was evolving fast. But at the same time, his mental struggles were getting worse. The beginning of inner conflict. In Paris, Vincent met many artists. But relationships weren't easy for him. He was intense, emotional, sometimes difficult to be around. He argued. He isolated himself. He drank heavily. And slowly, the cracks inside him started to show. Vincent had finally found his purpose. But it came with a price. Because in the next chapter of his life, we will see isolation, madness, and the creation of some of the most famous paintings in history, including sunflowers and the Starry Night. Alls, dreams, madness, and masterpieces. In 1888, Vincent van Gogh made a bold decision. He left the chaos of Paris and moved to the south of France, to a small town called Alls. He was searching for something, not just peace, but a new beginning. The Yellow House Dream. In Alls, Vincent rented a small house that would later become famous. The Yellow House. For the first time in his life, he had a vision. He wanted to build an artist's community, a place where painters could live, work, and inspire each other. And there was one person he wanted to join him more than anyone. Paul Gauguin. Vincent admired him deeply. He believed that together, they could create something revolutionary. Explosion of creativity. Something incredible happened in Alls. Vincent's art exploded. The sunlight, the colors, the landscapes, everything around him became fuel for his creativity. During this period, he painted some of his most famous works, including sunflowers, the bedroom, cafe terrace, at night. His style became bold. Bright yellows, deep blues, powerful, swirling brushstrokes. He wasn't just painting what he saw. He was painting emotion itself. Gauguin arrives. Hope and tension. Eventually, Paul Gauguin came to Alls. At first, it felt like a dream coming true. Two artists, living together, creating side by side. But very quickly, things started to go wrong. They were completely different. Vincent was emotional, impulsive, intense. Gauguin was controlled, confident, and dominant. They argued constantly about art, about philosophy, about everything. The house that Vincent dreamed would be full of harmony became full of tension. The night everything broke. Then came the night that would define Vincent's life forever. In December 1888, after a heated argument, something inside Vincent snapped. We don't know exactly what happened, but we know the result. Vincent took a razor and cut off part of his own ear. Yes. He wrapped it and delivered it to a woman at a nearby brothel. This moment shocked everyone. It wasn't just a breakdown. It was a sign that Vincent's mental state was far more fragile than anyone realized. Hospital and isolation. After the incident, Vincent was hospitalized. People in Alls began to fear him. Some even signed petitions to have him removed from the town. He became isolated again. Alone. Misunderstood. Broken. But even then, he didn't stop painting. The Starry Night, painting the mind. Later, Vincent admitted himself into a mental asylum in Saint Remy. And there, something extraordinary happened. In the middle of his suffering, he created one of the most famous paintings in history. The Starry Night. A swirling sky. Exploding stars. A restless, moving universe. This wasn't a normal landscape. This was his mind, on canvas. You can feel it. The chaos. The beauty. The pain. Genius and madness. At this point, Vincent's life became a cycle. Moments of intense creativity, followed by deep mental breakdowns. He painted over 2,000 artworks in just a few years. Think about that. In a life filled with suffering, he created beauty at an almost impossible rate. But despite everything, despite the art, despite the effort, despite Theo's support, Vincent still felt like a failure. He had no fame, no recognition, no sense of success. And in the next and final part of his story, we will see how it all ends. His final days, his tragic death, and the shocking truth about what happened after he was gone. The final days, suicide, or something else. In July 1890, Vincent van Gogh was living in a small village called Auvers-sur-Oise. On the surface, things seemed better. He was painting constantly. His work was improving. And for the first time, he was starting to receive a little recognition. But inside, the struggle never left him. The wheat fields, a warning. During his final weeks, Vincent painted one of his most haunting works. Wheatfield with crows. A vast field of wheat. A dark, stormy sky. And crows, flying violently across the canvas. If you look closely, something feels wrong. The paths in the field go nowhere. The sky feels heavy, almost suffocating. And the birds, they don't look peaceful. They look disturbed. Almost like they were startled. Like something had just happened. Some people believe this painting wasn't just a landscape. It was a message. A reflection of Vincent's state of mind. Or even a premonition. As if, somewhere deep inside, he knew. The end was close. The incident, on July 27, 1890, Vincent walked into a field. He was alone. At some point, a gun was fired. The bullet hit him in the chest. But here's where things get strange. Vincent didn't die immediately. He managed to walk back to his room, injured, bleeding, alone. 2 days later, he died. Was it suicide? For many years, the official story was simple. Vincent van Gogh took his own life. And there are reasons people believe this. He had a long history of mental illness. He struggled with depression. He often felt like a burden, especially to Theo van Gogh. His reported final words were, "The sadness will last forever." Or was it something else? But not everyone agrees. Some historians have raised a different possibility. What if Vincent didn't shoot himself? What if it was an accident? There are theories that suggest he may have been shot by local boys playing with a gun, and instead of accusing them, he chose to take the blame. Why? Because Vincent was known to be kind, even self-sacrificing, and because maybe he simply didn't want to fight anymore. Even when asked who shot him, Vincent reportedly said, "Don't accuse anyone. It is I who wanted to kill myself." But was that the truth? Or was he protecting someone? We may never know. Art imitating life, or death. Now go back to that painting. Wheatfield with crows. The chaos in the sky. The tension in the air. The sudden movement of the birds. Some people see fear. Some see loneliness. And some see something chilling. A moment frozen in time. As if the birds had just taken flight. Right after the sound of a gunshot. After his death. When Vincent died, he was only 37 years old. At his side was the one person who never left him, Theo van Gogh. Theo was devastated. And just 6 months later, he died too. The tragic truth. During his lifetime, Vincent sold almost nothing. He was unknown, unappreciated, forgotten. But after his death, everything changed. His paintings became world famous. His story inspired millions. And today, he is considered one of the greatest artists in history. Vincent van Gogh wasn't just an artist. He was a man who felt too much, loved too deeply, and suffered too greatly. And maybe that's why his art still speaks to us today. Because in every brushstroke, there's a piece of his soul. And maybe the most tragic part of Vincent van Gogh's story is not how he died, but how he lived. A man who searched for meaning, but never felt understood. A man who created beauty, but never saw his own worth. And a man who painted the world in colors, while living in darkness. Today, his paintings are worth millions, displayed in the greatest museums on earth. But back then, he was just a lonely soul, standing in a field, under a restless sky. So the next time you look at a painting like the Starry Night, don't just see the stars. See the struggle behind them. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story. Because there are many more stories like this. Stories that remind us that sometimes the people who change the world are the ones the world almost ignored. Tell me in the comments. Do you think what happened to Vincent was suicide, or something else? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And I'll see you in the next story.